jump on there. You're gonna hear an echo, and then
Okay, cool.
start the Zoom. 3, 2. Perfect. Hi, everybody. I am your host, Richie Valdez, and welcome to our Battle Live event. I want to wish you all a happy Easter and actually safe at home this weekend. And I'm so excited to introduce you to Bianca Osbourne, chef and national TV cooking expert. So thank you
Hello.
for tuning in, and thank you for joining us, Bianca. So Bianca, if those, I'm sure you guys all recognize her. For those of you
Oh,
in Toronto, she is one of Canada's up and coming voices on food and cooking, and she's also sought after speaker, national media personality, and recipe developer. And you'll definitely recognize her from Canada's #1 daytime talk show, The Marilyn Dennis Show on CTV. What I personally love about you, Bianca, is the fact that you, on your spare time, you love to mentor women, and I love doing that myself. So I love that you take the time to spend spend time with other women and share your knowledge and continue to inspire others. So welcome to our show.
thank you so much for having me. This is a great cause. We're all at home. We might as well be making delicious food while we're stuck inside.
Exactly. So a couple things. So how are you doing during this challenging time? How has it changed your life?
It's changed my life just because I deal in food, so I go into people's homes. So I'm in my own home now, just like cooking, creating, recipe developing. I have a few like media things in development that are still in development, so we're still working on them. We're just not filming them right now. So it hasn't been too crazy of an upset as far as like I still have stuff to do, but I find that now that we're going into and like well into week 4, I'm starting to get squirrely around here.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you with the squirrely. What changes have you made like with your cooking lifestyle given all these limitations as well?
Well, you'd be inclined to think that as a chef, I cook at home a lot for myself, but generally I don't because I'm cooking for other people. So I eat out and I eat at friends' houses and like it's socializing with my friends and eating out is like my hobby, my pastime. So I'm cooking a lot more at home, like almost like 80% more at home. So that's not been a challenge or really, it's just, I just been cooking for myself like I would cook for clients, which is not the norm. So it's been a good change, I would say.
And what have you learned? Any insight you can share with us?
I think the best insight is, I mean, they say this on the news, like, don't panic buy. I feel like what I've really come to appreciate as someone who works in food are the people that work in food and keep the machine going. I mean, I think now we're all thanking them and being like, thank you so much for all you do. But I hope and I intend to extend that far beyond this whole COVID thing, is to just be really appreciative of the people who help us get to the point that we are able to be at home, cook food, follow along with cooking videos, make bread, all of the stuff that we're getting to do. So
Yeah, I agree. And I just want to give a shout out to those who are frontliners, whether you are a nurse, doctor, those of you who are holding down the fort for us, thank you so much. Um,
agreed.
so what I'll do is I'll pass it over to you. I know you've got some special recipes you're going to share, not just one, but two. So I'll pass it over to you.
Ooh. Okay, so today we're going to be cooking one of my favorite recipes. It is a dill pickle chicken, and we're also just going to make a quick side salad that's made with romaine, and we're also going to like weave the dill flavor throughout this because I personally love dill. I love dill pickles. I love dill pickle chips. I like love all things dill pickles. So the first thing I always tell people to do when you get into a kitchen before you start fussing about with the ingredients is always set up your cooking stuff. So we are going to be using a non-stick skillet that can go into the oven. So how you know it can go into the oven is it will have a metal handle. Some plastic handles or plastic looking handles can go into the oven, but make sure that they're silicone because if they're not, it's gonna burn, it's gonna make a mess. Don't say I didn't warn you. And then for our puffed rice croutons, we're just gonna need a non-stick pan as well. And this one can have any kind of handle just because it's staying stovetop. So we are going to preheat our oven to about 410 410. And that might sound high, but we are going to be searing on the stovetop and we just are putting it in the oven to finish off the cooking. So we want high heat, we want to hit it with the high heat. And then we also want to preheat our stove to about a register of 7, which is like medium high heat if you don't have numbers on your stove like I do. So if you have all your ingredients together for the chicken, that's what we're going to start with. So you want to use chicken thighs. I love chicken thighs, low key, high key, publicly. Chicken thighs are the best chicken part that you can eat, aside from wings. I love wings. But as far as versatility is concerned, chicken thighs are great because one, they're really, really easy to cook. It's almost, I would say, near impossible to dry out a chicken thigh. You cannot say that about chicken breast. So that's like point number one. Point number two is that it holds and takes flavor really, really well, and it takes a lot of different cooking techniques. So you can cook it on the stovetop, you can sear it, you can barbecue it, you can roast it in the oven. Incredibly versatile. So we love chicken thighs. So we're just gonna season our chicken thighs in a bowl. And so, hot tip, when you are searing something or you want something to get really nice caramelization, and it's like a protein, so steak, chicken, some fish like salmon, oil the meat itself, don't oil the nonstick skillet. It's not really, like, you don't really need to oil that. We're oiling it here so that we get moisture and all of that going. We're not doing it so that it doesn't stick because we already took care of that because of the pan that we're using. So with tongs, you want to just move it around, make sure that it gets coated, and always minding your food handling. Just know, so we're using these tongs for raw chicken. Once we're done dealing with all the raw chicken, we are going to retire these tongs and get another type of tong. So we're going to add some chili spice. Chili spice is really just a blend. If you don't have it, chili spice is just dried oregano, dried paprika, and also dried garlic, or like ground up dried garlic. So if you don't have it and you're in a pinch or your grocery store is out, as some grocery stores are out of things, that is a really nice substitute. And then we're gonna add just a little bit of maple syrup for some sweetness and some balance. And the reason that we're doing this in the bowl and not say on the cutting board is because we need the cutting board to do the dill part of this dill pickle chicken. Okay. So it's just gonna look like this. Seasoned, delicious, wonderful. And once our pan is hot, and you can just feel it, if it's hot, when you put your hand over top of it, it's ready to go. Another way to know is if your pan sizzles, then you're all good. And I hear that. Do you hear that? Good. Okay, so we're gonna put it in the pan. And one of the things that people are inclined to do when it comes to working with any type of protein and cooking it on the stovetop is moving it around and feeling like you need to fuss with it and look and check underneath. Leave it alone. Don't bother it. It's relaxing. Okay, so I didn't touch that chicken or anything. My hands are clean, but if you had, say, grazed your hand on the chicken, now would be a time to wash your hands. If you got a drip drop of chicken juice on your cutting board, now would be the time to wash it. So while that is going, we're gonna move on to our dill pickle relish, which is super easy. So you want just your traditional dill pickles, whichever is your favorite, use that one. And I'll move this so you can see what I'm doing. And you just want to cut it into like small-ish chunks. So if we want it to be like salsa sized, because fun fact, salsa just means sauce. So this is technically like a dill pickle salsa. And we're gonna put that in there, just like that. Now, if you don't like dill pickles, but you like sweet pickles, go ahead, use those. One of the things I always say to people about recipes is you can make substitutions really easily without knowing or being given substitution in a recipe. You just substitute like for like. So dill pickles have the same texture and a lot of the same components as sweet pickles, other than the fact that one is sweet and one is a little bit more acidic. So they sub for each other very, very easily. If you don't want to use maple syrup and you want to use honey, That's great because they're both sweet for sweet. We're using lemon. If you don't like lemon and you want to use orange, great, because it's citrus for citrus. So you can always make substitutions. You just need to think about switching like for like. Now, this does not apply to baking. I have nothing to say about baking because I'm a cook, I'm not a baker. So if you want to ask those questions, I don't know where to direct you, but this is not the person to ask. So that just applies to when you're cooking food, because cooking is a little bit more relaxed as far as that is concerned. So, and then we're gonna cut up our last pickle. And then we're just gonna cut it, and I'll show you what they look like, just so you get the idea. Because what we are gonna do is we're gonna lay this over top of the chicken, and then we're gonna bake it in the oven. And so they're just little like cubes, cute. We're gonna add a little bit of oil. And if you didn't add any sweetness to the chicken like toss that we did with it, you would maybe use a little bit of sweetness in this dill pickle, or if you're using a sweet pickle, that would be lovely as well. But in this case, we're gonna leave it, and then we're gonna add some lemon zest. We're also gonna add fresh lemon zest when it's done, so don't use too much of your lemon zest, just a little. Oh, I need a fork to toss this with. And we're just gonna give this a flip. And so I'll quickly show you what you wanna see is you're gonna start to see it develop color. That's great. That's when you flip it. Because we're also going to be getting some color development on the chicken when it's in the oven. This is just to get it going. Put you there. Toss like that. And so once we flip the chicken, we're gonna add this dill pickle relish over top. And I'll show you what it looks like once I get it laid on there. And this is another reason why thighs are great for this, because they hold the chicken really well because they're a little bit flat, or not chicken, they hold the relish a little bit well because they're flatter. So another ace in the hole for chicken thighs. So then what you want it to look like is this. So it's like the chicken, the relish is on top, and then we're just gonna stick it into our preheated oven. And we're gonna let it cook. And we're gonna move on to our salad. And so one of the reasons that I love this recipe is that the way that it works in stages allows you to stack work on top of each other. So that's like one of the things you need to remember about meal planning in any event, not just like if you're cooking during the times of pandemic, but if you're cooking in the times of like, I have 3 kids and I have to get food on the table. Always think of how you can stack the work. So we did the chicken. As the chicken was going, we were making the relish. That relish could easily be turned into a garnish for other things. So, you know, bulk cooking. And then we put the chicken in the oven and we can move on to the salad. And all of this happens so that we're timing it perfectly. So that really this whole meal is like a 25-minute, 30-minute thing. So next, we're gonna move on to our salad. So I'm just gonna bring those ingredients over here. And so this salad and this whole meal, in fact, is allergen friendly. So it's dairy free. So this is a Caesar salad because, you know, I know purists will be like, hey, Bianca, get real. And I would say that to myself ordinarily too. So what I'm trying to get at here is that it's gonna give you that nice, tangy, creamy vibe that a Caesar salad would give you, but it doesn't have dairy in it, so it's great. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna turn the element that we have the chicken on down to about a 4, and we're just gonna put our non-stick pan on there because that's what we're gonna use for our croutons. And so what we're using, and I'll show you, are these like puffed rice pieces. You could use puffed quinoa if you want. You could also just make like a crouton of like bread if you like. But again, this is an allergen friendly and approachable meal for everyone. And so we're gonna use garlic. We have butter, and the butter is for the croutons. So we're just gonna add that to this nonstick pan. And what I like about using these as croutons is it gives you the crunch, it gives you that nice like, but you don't get the gluten if you can't eat it, which I am a person that cannot. And so we have, oh, and the most important part of all, can't forget, the pickle juice. So again, I love pickle juice. And what you're getting, usually you get the tang and the like from the anchovies and the Parmesan cheese. I'm just gonna move this so we don't burn it as I talk. So we get usually that from the Parmesan cheese and the anchovies, but in the interest of keeping this allergen friendly, we're gonna use the pickle juice because this will give you that tang without having to use anything that could potentially upset one of the people dining at your table. And another thing too is when you're making any type of salad, always make the salad dressing, everything in the bowl, toss it in the bowl, save yourself the headache. I don't know about you, but my dishwasher is working overtime while I'm home making all of these meals. So if we can consolidate the amount of dishes that we make, I mean, I'm here for it. So we're also going to be using coconut cream. I'll show you this again as well. And so I like coconut cream. And again, this is replacing the egg yolk in a traditional Caesar. Let me get some tongs here, not tongs, spatula. So we're just gonna add that to our bowl. We're gonna add a little bit of maple syrup. You could use honey, you could use sugar, you could use coconut sugar. I mean, lots of options. So just incorporate that. Add a little bit of the pickle juice. My pickle juice happens to have dill and garlic pieces in it. So if you find like a dill pickle that has like yummy pieces in it, get that one. And then once the pickles are done, you could still use the juice or even strain out the juice and use the like little pieces that you see in there, because all of that kind of stuff is flavor, my friend. Okay, so we're gonna get that pan, the nonstick pan, back on the element with the butter melted. So you want the butter completely coating. And again, this is not for nonstick capabilities. This is for flavor. We want the butter to infuse these pieces of rice because we're trying to get the same vibe without, you know, the gluten. Now again, you kind of just leave these be and let them just toast. Don't forget about them because that's dangerous too, but you just want to leave them be. So we'll add a little bit of salt, just a little bit, and then slowly, let me get my whisk. We're gonna slowly add oil to the bowl, and that's gonna help emulsify. So if you just add all the oil to the bowl, what will happen is it will separate and you won't get that creamy vibe that you're looking for. And that's what we want. So you just keep whisking as you add the oil. Let me show you what it looks like. And it looks like creamy dressing, but the pièce de résistance, the most important part of a dressing of Caesar-y nature, is the garlic. And so you can mince this, you can grate this. I am going to just crush it. But if you don't have a garlic press like this one, you can just mince it. Or again, if you have like a grater for lemon zest, that works as well. So just get it all in there. The more garlic, the better. I mean, you should ideally be isolated with people who know you. So who cares if you have garlic breath?
So funny. I did get a question here.
Okay, cool.
What wine would you recommend to pair with this?
What wine? Oh, I feel like this would be perfect for like a dry Riesling, a Cave Springs, you could say. I love that wine. My roommate introduced me to it. So once that's sort of everything is in there, just give it a taste. I like to taste on my wrist because my hands aren't all up in that. So it's like, I think that's a safe place, especially because nowadays you don't want to be seen to be like dipping your finger in a bowl and licking. Those days are dead. So when it comes to lettuce, never, ever, ever what do you call it? Tear or cut the lettuce, because what happens is you bruise that little membrane, and that's what makes those little lettuce pieces brown. And that's not what we want. And so now we're just gonna give our croutons a toss. And because the pan is hot, you're often able to give them one toss and then just move them off the heat and let them finish just in the pan there. And so when it comes to lettuce or anything that you would cut that's sort of like lettucey, so romaine, butter lettuce, bib lettuce, all of that, tear it in as opposed to cutting it in, because if you cut it in, you'll get those brown membrane pieces. So I do a tear like this and then a tear like this, and then I'll just like right in to the salad. And about the wine again, honestly, I'm also not picky about wine, but I do think that like this kind of like chicken, and it's like we have the creaminess from the salad and we have sort of like the like saltiness from the pickles. It also might go well with like a really like nice rosé, just to like balance all of that. But I love wine no matter what, so I would drink any kind with this. I would drink whatever someone poured me, so I'll leave that in your court, folks. So then we're just gonna toss just like that, and it'll be creamy. And whenever you're making a salad or anything of the sort, you always toss it right before you eat it, unless it's something like a kale salad or a cabbage salad or like broccoli or cauliflower, which can hold up over time. These types of lettuce or lettuce, who knows, are things that you toss immediately and then you eat, or else it's just going to be like not the best and most enjoyable experience. And then let's see our crispy croutons. And so right as they're still hot and like still a little bit wet from the oil because they haven't like pulled it all in yet, we want to season them with salt. Because they'll just absorb that as they sort of like cool down. And then we're gonna check the chicken. And honestly, right there is like, that's the prep for this meal. That's as long as it takes. And it doesn't really take a long time because in the interest of, I mean, doing other things, why would you want to spend all your time making a meal when you could be doing other things? And so we have a little bit more time for the chicken, but I also want to note that don't be afraid if some of the dill pickles like fell into the pan a little bit, because those will actually like get delicious and like crispy and yummy. So I'll give you just like a few little meal planning takeaways from this session of things that you can do ahead of time. So things like the salad dressing, that's something that you can make a huge batch of. Like you can double, triple, quadruple the recipe, and you can store that in the fridge, and that will last for up to a month because you have this vinegary vibe in it. The only thing to remember is whenever you make anything, but especially things with like cream and stuff, never introduce a dirty utensil into that, because then that whole lasts for a month business is right out the door because you're introducing potential bacteria. Another thing that you can do is you can make these crispy croutons ahead of time, and you can store them in an airtight container, in your refrigerator, in your cupboard, wherever. Another thing that you can also make is you can sear chicken. So say you're like, I don't know what I want to top my chicken with this week, but I know I'm going to want chicken, if you're like a chicken lover like myself. So you can sear chicken, you can season your meats, you can get them ready for the pan or the oven, so that all you have to do is take them out of the fridge or defrost them from the freezer, already seasoned and marinated, and just put them in the oven or start cooking them on the stovetop, and you're good to go. Because I think that just because we're home, a lot of us now, more than we probably ever have been before, doesn't necessarily mean we want to be spending a ton of time in the kitchen doing, you know, cooking, especially if you're not comfortable in the kitchen or you just don't like want to spend a ton of time in there, but you also value eating healthy food and feeling like, you know, the food you eat loves you as much as you love it. And so I think it's important to find ways that we can make our work like pay us back dividends over time, as opposed to doing it once and having to do it once again and having to do it once again, because that's just too much. So I'm gonna get a plate and I'm gonna start plating this because the chicken is probably near done. And again, fast recipes. And also, like, something that I always just tack on to every time I teach a class is clean as you go. There's nothing more can be said for like the process of meal planning, cooking at home, than cleaning as you go. Because if you do that, you are like shaving like so much time off of the effort. And then over time, that's going to pay you back. Again, we meal plan and we cook because we want to save time in the kitchen and we want to have good food on the table. And so instead of wasting time cleaning up double, triple the mess, just clean as you go. I do see questions coming in on Zoom. Do you see those too?
Yes.
Okay,
So the
cool.
one we covered was the wine question, but the next one was, what got you into cooking, or specifically who inspired you?
Who inspired me to cook? Well, my grandma Vera, may she rest in peace. She was like, when I was little, I always tell the story, like she was just so like kind-hearted. Me and my cousin would play like restaurant critic, and she would like put food down for us. And we'd be like, ugh, gross, or like, delicious. And those are like some of my like early memories of like food. And yeah, I mean, food was like, I know it's so cheesy to say, but food really was like a loving thing in our family. And so, yeah, she inspired me to cook. And my mom is not, well, wasn't. My mom is a great cook now. She's really improved. But growing up, my mom wasn't a very good cook. So just wanting to eat delicious food my way was also the inspiration to cook as well. Does that answer it? I think it does.
Definitely. Do you have any advice for future cooks or those who are kind of starting up, especially now that we're at home?
Like future cooks professionally, or just like cooks at home, like who want to just like start eating healthier
Yeah.
or just eating more? I think for people who are starting at home and just trying to get in the kitchen more, just get in the kitchen. You're gonna have some failures. I have failures, and I've been cooking for like over a decade. So I think that a lot of people get really nervous and they think, well, what if I make a mistake? Or what if it's this? Like, oftentimes it's still edible, so it's not a complete waste. And I mean, I just think that like starting with like recipes that are easy. So understanding how to read recipes. So something that I say to everyone is like always read a recipe from start to finish before you decide if that's the recipe that you're making. Because if at any point in reading that you don't have the right equipment or you're kind of confused about a process, that might not be a recipe to start with. You might graduate to that at some point, but I think a lot of people bite off more than they can chew, and they sort of enter into like meal planning and cooking at home without covering some of the fundamentals. Like, clean your kitchen up, like make sure that your fridge is ready for food to be prepped and put in there. Make sure that you don't, like, all the things you have around work and are functioning, because if you like go to use your spatula and it's like, you know, got a big like hole or something in it, that's gonna make you frustrated and you're not gonna want to do it anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So
Great.
those are like some tips. And then for professionally, I would say that like there's two ways that you could start. You can go to school or you can just get a job at a restaurant. I would advocate for the school part just because that's what I did. Because I think that you learn, I like to learn like by being able to do something and perfect something. In a restaurant setting, you're not necessarily given that opportunity. You're able to perfect what that restaurant does, but you're not necessarily learning all the techniques that you would learn if you were in school. And so I just think that there's just so many opportunities for learning and experiencing new things that you get in the school setting that you don't get doing the apprenticeship vibe. But you get paid when you're an apprentice, so, and you don't get paid for school. So it really matters like just like where you're at in your life and what your goals are.
That's great advice.
Yeah. So the chicken is ready. I know it just because I've made this a gazillion times. And it'll be bubbly and delicious, just like that. And because we cut the pickle pieces into those like big chunks, when you bite into them, it like they pop in. It's kind of like sauce in your mouth. It's actually like super avad. So we're just going to scoop a piece on there like that. And then also, this is just a tip that we do in this house. If you ever bring something that's like a hot pan out of the oven, you have to give a way for people to know that that is hot, because if someone goes to grab that, you might have to go to the hospital. And hospitals don't need you coming in there for burns that could have been prevented, especially now. So I just take the oven mitt that I'm using and I just slide it over the handle. So that is like universal sign for this is hot, beware. And then to finish, because both the Caesar-like salad and the dill pickle chicken deserve a little bit of lemon zest, we do that and we just give it a final squeeze. And that is it, all done. And that clocks in at 31 minutes, even with all my rambling. That's like, I gotta say, I'm impressing myself right now. Just because we have the time doesn't necessarily mean we want to be in the kitchen, but this is like a really delicious meal. It will fill you up. You can add as much or as little croutons as you like, depending your vibe. And like I said, you could add a bright crouton, you could do puffed quinoa. There's lots of options for you, but nonetheless, this recipe is a really good shell that you can riff off of that you know can come together in like less than 30 minutes.
Which culinary school did you go to?
I went to NATE, so I went to the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology in Edmonton. Woo!
And what is your go-to everyday meal?
Go-to everyday meal. I cook a lot of chicken. Chicken is my favorite food. Like when the internet first came to be, I wanted to start a like website chicken.com. I wish I did. I'd be rich now. But I eat a lot of chicken. And yeah, I eat a lot of chicken wings, thighs, lots of salads and vegetables and stuff. Like that's like my go-to, but like a protein and a vegetable is like my go-to all the time. And I love berries, but I don't eat a lot of them right now.
So Coach Kip is asking you to say that one more time again, just a shout out to your culinary school.
Oh, Northern Alberta Institute of Technology.
Awesome.
Woo! Yeah, it's a great school. It like honestly, I learned so much there. And I was so lucky because when I enrolled in culinary school, they had just had this like state of the art, like culinary facility built. So I really learned in the best facility and like best case scenario possible. So like I feel really lucky that I learned the way that I did.
And do you have favorite cuisine that's like your go-to? Like, do you cook your own from where you grew up, or do you like to venture?
Mm, I don't actually cook a lot of my like my family, because I'm Caribbean. I'm half Trinidadian and half Bajan, Barbados. But I don't really cook a lot of that food. I leave that up to like my family members, but I should start. I actually have said that so many times this year. Like I need to start learning those recipes. But I tend to default. Like I love curry flavors, but Thai curry, Indian curry, West Indian curry. Like I just like love curries. But I also really just like the clean flavors of like Mediterranean food, how they're like simple ingredients, like small ingredient lists, but like really bold flavors. That's where I tend to go when I'm cooking at home, just because it's easy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I know, like, again, we've talked about this for those who are kind of joining in late. I know that you're more than just a chef and you do a lot of mentoring. Can you tell us about the 7 questions for living your best life?
So I went through like a really big like transformation. I say all the time, like I used to be terrible because I just had a lot of my own like stuff going on. And like when I moved to Toronto, because I moved here in 2017, there was just a lot of stuff that like you learn about yourself when you like take a big leap and like sort of like leap on faith. You kind of learn what scares you, what triggers you, what holds you back, like the stories that you tell yourself. And so I kind of like through like reading all of the self-development books and all the stuff that I was doing, just discovered that through it all, they really kind of ask you to nail down like 7 deep things about yourself. And from that, everything like springs from that. And so I just disseminated them down into those questions, because those are questions that I like tend to ask myself maybe every like 8 months, because that's to think that you can ask you like you're not going to change and evolve. And I think having those 7 questions and knowing that you can always go back to them helps to just like sort of like, you know, pull you back on course. It's so easy to get distracted. We live in a world of like endless distraction. And so those 7 questions have been really great for me to always be able to just like be clear about what I want, and not just like want from like a material point of view or just career point of view, but like what do I want as far as like who do I want to be, how do I want to show up, all those kinds of things. And it's just been wonderful for my life, not just my career, but my life as well.
So for those of you that are tuning in, you can find those 7 questions for living your best life, which I think is a great tip, especially now that a lot of us are reflecting. You can just visit our website,
Totally.
biancaosborne.com, and you can check it out there. And then the last piece around like your mentoring women, what did you enjoy the most, like as you've been doing that with women and others?
I feel like it makes me better. And I know that sounds like so selfish, but like it makes me better in a way too, because I don't know. I think it just I feel like I'm more compassionate because having gone through like some like dark times and rough times in my own career and life, and then coming out of it, and then helping other women and just talking to other women too. Like sometimes I just like someone will like ask me a question over like Instagram or something. It's easier to just answer than be like, you have to coach with me. But it's like just even helping with people in those instances, because I remember feeling like I just was like on my own, because like entrepreneurship or even just personal development can be really hard when you're not necessarily surrounded by the people that you should be, because I was in that position as well. And I think having someone who can potentially be that person for you that's outside of what your world looks like now, but it's more like what you want your world to look like, I think that can be really powerful for people to have. And
That's
like
amazing.
that makes me feel great.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So I'm just gonna summarize because we learned so much in 31 minutes. Not,
Yeah.
not only did Bianca share with us and teach us 2 amazing recipes of her own, she's taught us food safety tips, which is ultra important in the kitchen. She taught us how to bulk up and prep ahead of time, and I feel like this is really important because no one wants to your point, no one wants to spend all this time in
No.
the kitchen. So prepping ahead of time. I love the alternatives because I mean, like these days we don't have the luxury of just like walking in and out of a grocery store.
Yeah.
So if you can't find a lemon, go for a lime or go for the, I love the alternative tip that you gave. And then I think the best one is cleaning as you go. Because
Yes.
if you're kind of working as you're, say, waiting for something to like simmer on the stove or in the oven. So a lot of the tips you shared are so practical for us. And like, I really, really appreciate all that advice.
Of course. I love giving tips. Like I said, it's hard to shut me up. So once I get going, I'm just like going.
Okay, ultra awesome question that we just got is what kind of music do you like to listen to while you're cooking?
You know what? I actually, back to the personal development piece, I stopped listening to music during the week when I like was working like in clients' houses and stuff, because I wanted to listen to more like personal development podcasts. So I only really listen to podcasts in the week, but on the like seriously, if anyone needs any podcasts, just hit me up because I literally have I'll listen to everything. But for music, it depends. Like sometimes, 'cause I used to be a DJ. That's like another like deep cut. I used to be a DJ in Edmonton when I lived there with my girlfriends, and so I sometimes will go through like I'll listen to like our old stuff and be like nostalgic and like cooking. Other times I like classical music. So I just feel like that's cool. And then sometimes jazz, because I studied jazz music before I got into culinary. I was in music, so I studied jazz. So sometimes I listen to jazz. I mean, but sometimes I also just like listening to the sound of like cooking, like sizzles, the chops, like they very ASMR-y, but less like weird in my opinion. But just like hearing the sounds of like the cooking sometimes is nice too.
So today in present time, who inspires you? So you mentioned a couple of things. You listen to podcasts, but as far as like your cooking, who is inspiring you right now?
I'm ultra inspired by just everything that Bon Appetit does, because I feel like they have really there's so many amazing magazines that like are no more, like Gourmet magazine, may it rest forever in peace, because they didn't transition into online and like social media, and Bon Appetit has just done such an amazing job at being creating platforms for everyone. But for as like personally, I like love Nancy Silverton. She's from Osteria Mazza in LA. She's just like so cool. I also love Ottolenghi from the UK, just because he makes like amazing like Middle Eastern food. I feel like he really is like a part of the vibe that like really drove Middle Eastern food, giving it the credit it deserves. Um, who else? Oh, well, I mean, obviously, like Julia Child and all that stuff. Like, I still refer back to her, but like, I still watch old episodes of Pasquale's Kitchen Express or like Julia Child, the French chef. So like those things. But even like I love like Top Chef, things like that. Like I just am inspired by like people like cooking, watching cooking shows. David Chang, Ugly Delicious. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I feel like, but I also think it's important for just anyone in anything is like surround yourself with the people who are doing, and even if they're not your like friends, but like surround yourself with the people who are doing things that you like want to do. Like I always wanted to be like on TV and like on the Marilyn Dennis show, and it was just something that I always visualized. And so like I followed everyone who like cooked on the Marilyn Dennis show. Do you know what I mean? I just think that like you have to sometimes you have to believe things and see it how it looks before it actually like happens in your life. So just anyone who inspires me, I'm like, ooh, following you. Or if I like see someone who posts like in like the explore page like a cool recipe, I'll like go so deep on them and then like decide whether I want to follow them or not. But it's just like finding endless inspiration because it's out there, it's
Yeah,
everywhere.
agreed. A couple more questions because this is such intriguing conversation.
Yeah, okay.
Um, who are some of the people that are famous that you've cooked for?
Oh my god, I haven't cooked for any. Oh no, wait. Only one person who's famous, Jerry O'Connell on the Marilyn Dennis show once. He's so nice. And okay, so I love the Real Housewives of everywhere. Like I consider myself a Real Housewives historian. Ask me any question, I know the answer. But he is too. And so he was on one of my favorite podcasts about like Real Housewives. And he walked in and I was like, oh my God, I love your work on insert podcast. It's called Bitch Sesh, a Real Housewives breakdown. And so I was like, oh my God, I love your work. And then he was like, oh my God, he's like, you listen to that? And me and him, like, we're instant friends. He was like, let's take a picture. I was like, oh my God, you asked me to take a picture? Okay, sweet. So that was my only star moment. I hope to have more, but that was my own one and only so far.
It can only go up from here.
Seriously.
I was talking about your exposed brick earlier, but everyone wants to know how do you keep your kitchen so clean?
um, well, we're pretty paranoid about cleaning around here, just in general, like COVID aside. So we keep a good wipe on things. I actually like I'm looking at 4 things of cleaner, just like on the other side of this computer screen. Or just clean. It's mandatory to live here.
That's
Especially if you have a like white kitchen, like you have to just accept that this is going to be a responsibility of daily wipes, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, I agree. We have white kitchen cabinets as well, and I feel like I have 2 kids running around, and their fingerprints are always on the
Oh
white.
yeah.
So that's really good advice. So we're really here today to, as you know, we've talked about this. It's raising funds for SickKids Hospital, and for those of you in Montreal, it's for Montreal Children's Hospital. So you can find the links on the Battle Canada Instagram, so you can head over there and donate. We're really trying to raise funds, and especially right now, it's a critical time. We're trying to help them out with the whole COVID situation. But yeah, so we've learned 2 recipes today. You've given us a ton of advice and tips, which we really appreciate. And so just again, for anyone that's watching, just for things that are coming up. So next Wednesday, we have Arlen Castilla spinning some music for us. He's a DJ out in Montreal. And then next Saturday for the Cook for Cause, we actually have Chef Jay Anthony, chef of Ting's Restaurant in Montreal, tuning in for next Saturday for a Cook for Cause. So I want to just thank you again, Bianca, for spending the time today. This has been so amazing. It's the first time I've ever done
Thanks. This was great. I feel like we really like kicked this thing off with a bang, I'd say.
I agree. Oh, one last question before we go.
Okay.
So when was your first break or your breakthrough from moving here from Edmonton?
Um, so it was actually 2 years from the day I landed in Toronto till the day I like was on Maryland for the first time. But I got an opportunity to be on a show on Gusto, which is that like food and cooking network, lifestyle network that is also a subsidiary of CTV, so like same family of companies. And so I think I honestly, and I'm not even saying this like to be weird, but like it just happened. It's one of those things that like just the ball got rolling. Like I met someone at a party who was like, "You're so funny," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, thanks." They're like, "You should be on TV." I'm like, "I would love to be on TV." And then I didn't see those people again until like another party like a few months later, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you should be on TV." I'm like, "I would love to be on TV." And then they ended up knowing a producer, and a producer got in touch with me, so it was kind of like that. But I think that one of the things is like readiness, because I never knew when I was going to get like the shot or the break or anything. But when I went to my audition, I was like ready. Like it was like I had done it before. And so I think that's all you can do is just be like super prepared, super open to the opportunities, make yourself available to say yes to those things. But other than that, like it really comes down to like being ready, because the opportunity, if you're in the right place and in the right mindset, I do think presents itself. But are you ready for it is the question.
Yes, agreed. That's great advice.
Yeah.
So I will, there's actually some people who tuned in a little late. So I just want
Mhm.
you to know that you can re-watch this over and over and over again on our YouTube channel. Head over to Battle Canada and the Richie and Ryan podcast on YouTube. You can watch this from the beginning. Don't feel like you missed out because we are live. And again, thank you again for everybody tuning in. We really appreciate your time, Bianca, and
Thank
stay safe
you.
out there.
Thanks so much. Everyone stay safe. Enjoy your food. It's gonna be great.
Oh, sorry, one last
Oh,
thing. If
oh,
you guys have followed the recipes, you
oh
can
yeah.
tag Bianca Osbourne on Instagram and Battle Canada. Share with us what
Yeah,
you
I want to see
did,
it.
process, final photos, any of the things that you've learned today. Please tag us, and then we want to see your progress. Please share, share, share.
Yes, I can't wait to see it.
Awesome. Thank
See
you.
ya.
Bye.
Bye.